Welcome to the Eat More Barbecue podcast. I'm Ryan Sanderson, and every week I lead you through the world of Alberta barbecue and beyond, bringing you stories of the amazing people in and around the barbecue culture. This podcast is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen in. I appreciate the gift of your time, and I hope I can entertain you for a little bit. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe on your favorite podcatcher, and I'd love it if you'd leave a rating and review. And now, on with this week's show. Hello, Eat More Barbecue family, and thank you for tuning in. This is episode number 147 of Canada's longest-running barbecue podcast. Edmonton's Transit Hotel first opened in September of 1908, and over the next century plus, it saw a number of different owners and underwent a number of transitions before closing in 2017. Now, however, there's a pair of business partners who are redeveloping and renovating the 112-year-old building, with the hopes of it becoming a catalyst for revitalizing the surrounding neighborhood. The first step in the plan is the transformation of what was once the tavern into the Transit Smokehouse and Barbecue. Edmonton's David Egan joins me on the show this week to talk about their project. Have you checked out After the Cook, live on YouTube every Tuesday and also in podcast form on all your favorite podcatchers? Eat More Barbecue Digital Media is pleased to be helping with the production of the podcast version of the show. To find out how Eat More Barbecue Digital Media can help you with consulting, recording, voice work, or full production, email us at eatmorebarbecue@gmail.com. That music you're hearing in the background is one of two new original compositions by my friend Alan Horabin, who has graciously provided all of the music you hear on this podcast. Check him out on YouTube. That's Alan with one L, Horabin, Alan Horabin. He's a great guy and a very talented musician, and I appreciate his support of the show. It's the third week of the month, so stay tuned after my conversation with David for a quick recap of the competition barbecue scene south of the border. This portion of the podcast is brought to you by the Calgary Foundation, proudly supporting community needs for 65 years. Whether someone is battling depression, fleeing domestic abuse, or worried about putting food on the table, it's times like these that inspire people to help others during a period of unprecedented needs. The Calgary Foundation is here to help. Through the generous support of donors, the Foundation offers a wide range of funding opportunities for organizations who share a common goal of building a healthy, giving, caring, and resilient community. One where everyone thrives. If you're part of a registered charity looking for a grant, discover a wealth of resources at calgaryfoundation.org and learn more about the Calgary Foundation on their Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube channel. Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of the Eat More Barbecue podcast. Came across the Instagram for my guest today a week or two ago, I guess. And when I saw it, it looked like it was just an old hotel in Edmonton that was being restored. And I thought that's kind of a neat story. And then I looked into it a little more and realized there was a barbecue twist to it. So I figured we should probably get them on the podcast to share the story. So I'm really excited to have David Egan from Transit Smokehouse and Barbecue up in Edmonton on the podcast today. David, how are you today?
Hi, Ryan. Thanks for having me. Great, thanks. How are you doing?
Awesome. We were just saying we've got a bunch of snow on the ground here in Calgary this morning, and I'm looking at your background on Zoom, and it's nothing but blue sky back there. So you got the better of the weather today.
Well, it's about +5 today, so it's a little brisk.
Yeah. I think it was 18 here yesterday, and spent the day out in the yard. Sorry, the cat just made an appearance. Spent the day out in the yard in shorts doing yard work, and we had a fire going into the evening last night, so quite a difference to wake up to this morning. But as we said, springtime in Alberta, right? So, talk about yourself, a little background info on yourself here, David.
Sure. I'm born and raised in Northeast Edmonton.
Yeah.
I remember driving by the transit when I was just a few years old.
Yeah.
It's a pretty prominent location.
Mm-hmm.
It's very busy. It's inner city. It used to be a lot more busy than what it is right now, though.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, even from the 70s all the way up to the early 90s, Fort Road was a very visible location. There were a ton of vibrant businesses there that people went all the way from other parts of Edmonton, even outside of Edmonton, to go to.
Right.
I don't know if there was one in Calgary, but there used to be a old Bullwinkle's restaurant there.
Okay.
There was one right. Yeah, it was the only one in Edmonton. People my age that were quite young when they closed down, they remember going there.
Sure.
Some people grew up on the south side, and they went out of their way to come to Fort Road. There was another location there. I believe there is one still in Calgary, but they're not the same as what they used to be. There was a chicken restaurant called Chicken on the Way.
Yeah, I know Chicken on the Way, yeah.
Drive up to your house, and they used to fry up the chicken for you in their van.
Oh, wow.
Outside your house, and that was right there, too. There are a few others, but just over time, just like pretty much like any inner city community that doesn't get a lot of attention, businesses slowly go away, and I think a lot of the blue collar residences, it goes away too. It used to be the center of a pretty prominent meat packing district there as well. All the way to the early 1900s, the community was even called Packing Town. So there were stockyards there that were actually the second largest in North America. The Chicago Union stockyards were just a little bit bigger. There's a prominent meat packing plant that used to exist. It's called Gainers. It's
right. Okay. I remember. Yeah.
Peter Pocklington, who used to own the Oilers.
Yep.
Currently it's part of the building is still there. Part of the business is still there, but it really is a shell of its former self. A lot of that industry is gone. So really one of the few remnants of this area, which actually was its own village when the transit was built. It wasn't even part of Edmonton. It was the village of North Edmonton. Okay, It was equipped with its own little school, its own hospital. That building actually still stands.
Wow.
But really, there's just a few left. Yeah. And one of them being the Transit Hotel, which has been closed for a few years. So, to me, like even before it closed down, you could see the building starting to degrade. And I think it made me and a lot of folks very sad to see it. Yeah. So, I found myself in a position where I got to know the owner, and he made it clear that he was interested in having somebody assume the lease. Right. I'm not really a big cooker, but my partner is. Yeah. He's a chef, and he loves smoked meat. Perfect. And this is something that started off as a little bit of a joke, and the more we spoke about it, the more interested we became. And we reached the point where we ended up signing a lease it started about 6 months prior to that. Yeah. So, we had to negotiate the terms.
Sure. And,
one of the hardest things was to find an insurance provider. It's hard enough to find somebody to insure a facility that sells alcohol these days with all the liability concerns. But when you add on the fact that it's a 112-year-old building that still has wood shavings as its insulation, it becomes much more difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, we ended up finding one insurance provider after about 6 months of working, and that was actually shortly after the pandemic occurred. So it did slow things down a little bit more. But as soon as we did that, we still moved as quickly as we could to incorporate, sign the lease, and begin our renovations, which started in August.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. We'll get into that. Your background, kind of doing some reading online, certainly not in the restaurant business, eh?
Well, I'm actually a power engineer by trade. I've been working as one for about 12 years.
Okay.
I'm pretty involved in politics, too. I ran as a political candidate in the provincial election. Okay. I actually used transit as my campaign office.
I was reading that,
Yeah, that's how I got to know the owner.
Oh, that's kind of neat, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit different for me, for sure. But my partner, he's owned, in the past, I think up to 14 restaurants.
Okay,
growing up in Ontario. And when he came over here to Alberta, he worked as a real estate agent. And, the commercial real estate industry has slowed down quite a bit here. So, it just seemed like perfect timing for both of us to pursue something like this.
And that's Ray is your partner, your business partner?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And,
Ray Pretlove.
Yeah, excellent. So, you kind of, I was going to ask you about the hotel history, but you kind of covered that. So it's great to see that, and I've said, I grew up in Winnipeg. I've lived here in Calgary for 25 years now, but Winnipeg has protected and restored and used its historical buildings to a pretty good extent. And coming to Calgary, and I realize it's a bit of a newer city here, I haven't seen that here. been a bit more of a bulldoze and rebuild mentality here in Calgary. So I'm really
Edmonton's kind of there too.
Yeah.
Very sadly, we have a very bad record, I think, of tearing down our history.
Mm-hmm.
So Edmonton does have a resource of historical landmarks.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they have a designation that they can apply to certain historical landmarks.
Right.
The transit would probably qualify for that,
mm-hmm.
by the way. So we are designated as an historic resource, but we don't have that second level of designation, and that
right.
really does protect the building.
Yeah.
It's something we're really not the owners, right?
Yeah.
So we're the leaseholders. We do have a long-term lease, about 20 years.
Oh wow!
but
yeah.
But we're not the owners.
Yeah.
And I think down the road, if we choose to continue with our renovations, which are our plans,
mm-hmm.
we have 3 phases of redevelopment, which ultimately we hope to redevelop the entire hotel building,
mm-hmm.
and that might create a necessity for us to pursue other avenues of funding, and
right.
And the historical designation, there is a pretty large benefit to I believe it's a 50%
oh, wow.
remuneration, but there's other caveats that come with that. You can't redevelop it in the future. You have to bring it back to its original state, which even with the 50% reimbursement, I bet you it would still work out to more than if we wanted to use like modern construction methods and use modern materials. So a lot of the stuff would have to be made from scratch. So it's something that we have in the back of our minds what we want to do. But right now we're focused on phase 1 and to get the restaurant and the pub operational again.
Yeah. So where are you at right now in the reno stage, I guess?
Well, we get messages every day asking people to reopen. We get people at our doors all the time. We even got calls from one of the delivery apps saying that they get 10 calls a day.
Oh wow!
People wanting to order from us.
Oh, that's good. There's some buzz already, right?
Yeah, for sure. We had hopes to actually open up in the fall. But
okay.
We got delayed by permits.
Yep.
It's a bit of a process in the city, and really it's something that we don't have a lot of control over, sadly. But we're just getting over those humps.
Yeah.
We don't have a definitive opening date just yet, but anybody that's interested, just follow our pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All the handles are Transit Edmonton.
Yep.
But we're going to find out very soon, probably within the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, kind of have an idea of a time frame.
Yeah, exactly.
So talk about, as you said, the first stage, which is the Smokehouse and barbecue restaurant. Talk a little bit about that and what the plan is for that.
Sure. We've already built a menu. We actually, just backtracking a little bit, this whole process, it's got catalyzed by broad-based, like grassroots community support. And what really motivated me to do this was, I just put a couple feelers out there in the form of social media.
Sure.
And I started a Facebook page for the transit, and I just started researching, and I found, in city archives and another number of other sources, just really cool historical photos and fun facts. And I started sharing around. Some got shared around hundreds of times, and I think it's really tough sometimes to get impressions on social media. And I think a few of them, without really much effort at all, got over 100,000 impressions. So,
something to it.
That told me that there was a little bit of a community buy-in for doing something with this. Yeah. And it was something that we worked a little bit collaboratively, my partner and I. But it was the Smokehouse idea was actually originally his. Yeah. And I think it ties in perfectly with the dynamics of the history with that particular blue collar spot in what used to be the outskirts of Edmonton. And at one point it was surrounded by farms. One of the cool photos that I mentioned, we actually found of a farmer bringing a herd of pigs.
Oh, wow.
Probably on the way to the slaughterhouse.
Sure, yeah.
Somebody maybe stopped at the transit to grab a drink or something, and somebody decided to snap a photo.
Neat.
So that Yeah, it was really neat. That's so there's a number of really cool stories that we heard from people. I've had a number of former owners' families reach out to me. People, a ton of old staff that used to work there.
Neat.
There's a pretty strong connection that folks have with this building, and even somebody growing up in this area, I really didn't understand it. My mom went to the transit. It was at an old cafe right next to the bar when she was a little girl that grew up in a farm north of the city. So
neat.
We definitely the more I've gotten to know this area, and the more I've gotten to know the facility and the history behind it, the more excited we've all been, and it's ultimately led to this. So we've redesigned a number of the components of the interior. We did a lot of repainting, a lot of refinishing. We took out some old carpets, and we invested pretty significantly into the kitchen. So the old cafe, which is on the side of the building, it is connected, but it was an addition that was built at some point later on, and that's going to be exclusively the kitchen now. So we have a couple commercial smokers in there.
Nice.
And we purchased a ton of new supplies, and we converted the entire room into the kitchen now. So it looks like just like any other restaurant, I guess.
Modern kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. So we invested pretty significantly into it, and we're really happy with how it looks right now. Again, it's just getting over the regulatory approvals and the finishing touches before we open up. Sadly, due to COVID restrictions, it's going to be just for dine-in and takeout at first.
Delivery, you mean?
Just dine-in and takeout.
Okay,
you're right.
Sorry.
Takeout.
Yeah,
okay. You're right.
Yeah.
We might do a patio later on.
I was going to ask you that, given
that's what I meant. And we're not 100% sure of exactly how it's going to work out just yet, but we're working on it.
There is space for a patio?
There's a little bit, for sure. So
get something.
we have to figure out parking if that's what we do too. So, but we're happy with just doing takeout right now.
Sure.
And that'll allow us to pilot our system and make sure that everybody's comfortable with what we're doing and our menu and I think we're going to get a pretty sincere buy-in. We've got a pretty significant amount of press over this. Unfortunately, it goes a little bit back because we had really hoped to be open up in December, but maybe even a little bit earlier than that. But I think we've got a pretty significant buy-in. We've got over 4,000 people that follow us on Facebook, and a couple more thousand that people follow us. People that follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and it's pretty clear to us that people are getting a little bit eager. Right? They're patiently waiting, but they're really hopeful that we open up very soon as well.
Well, it's great to see you guys. And what I was reading, kind of looking at this as an anchor to help that neighborhood kind of revitalize, right? So I really appreciate that. And
that's absolutely the hope. As I mentioned, there was a lot of business activity that used to exist on that street, and the city has, and to their credit, they've put in an effort to try to improve it. But a lot of it actually hasn't really panned out the way they had hoped, I'm sure. The entire south side of the street, all the businesses were bought out at when I was still in high school.
Wow.
I think it started around 2002 to 2004. They tore them all down and they tried to put a new development called Station Point there.
Okay.
They didn't get the buy-in, I think, that they were initially looking for. They eventually got one complex being built there, and sadly, the company went bankrupt when they were around 3/4 complete.
Oh, geez.
That was in 2018, 2019.
Okay.
Another company took it over, and the pandemic happened. So they are actually moving forward. So I think a lot of folks are going to be really happy to see the progress of that building being made. There, but there's still a few other facilities that I've been told that want to be built there. So we'll see how it goes.
Good to see.
But yeah, I mean we're pressing on, and I think we can be a big part of what brings back a little bit of a positive perception that used to exist in this area, and the attention, the positive attention that sometimes inner city communities lose over time.
Absolutely.
Sadly.
So the Smokehouse and barbecue is step one. What are the what other stages do you kind of have in mind for the redevelopment there?
Well, the second phase is we're calling it our nice to haves list. So things that we didn't necessarily need to open up the restaurant, but what we want to do. I think the front entrance, for example, it's not as welcoming as I'd like it to be.
Okay.
Partner would as well. We actually hope to take out one of the windows and make it a large open entrance.
Nice.
We've spoken with community artists and the city about putting in a mural on the side outlining that very rich history of this little section of the city, and that really is unique from other areas. There's a few other items that we've outlined, intricacies on the interior and doing some specific things on the outside. But the big jump will be our third phase, and that's to get the hotel operational in some way, shape, or form. We've identified a few possibilities. To be honest, it's going to be a little bit down the road. But,
sure, of course,
we've talked about student housing because most of the rooms are actually dorm style, like old-fashioned hotels. And there's some other redevelopments that we can model ourselves off of that have occurred in the city as well. Strathcona Hotel, the pub actually just opened. Right before. I guess restrictions were put back in place. And there's another building not too far from the transit actually called the Gibbard Block. So that was an old site too that in the area of Highlands in the city, and they actually turned a lot of the old Airbnb or bed and breakfast rooms into office space. So we'll see how it goes. We don't know how. Ultimately, it's dependent on how much buy-in we get from the community.
Of course.
I think part of the reason why we broke this up was to give folks. Well, first of all, really, it isn't in our budget to do it all at once. Neither of us are rich by any means. We're just local guys that want to revitalize this area, and we're given an opportunity to take over a really cool building. But we hope this gives folks that live in the area and want to participate in our project an opportunity to feel like they're buying into our project and they're investing in it by giving us their continued business and seeing the investment being paid off by continued redevelopment and renovations on the project.
Right. Well, that's awesome. You mentioned 2 commercial smokers. I know that's not necessarily your area of the expertise in the project, but do you know what kind of smokers you brought in?
So it will be just one at first.
Okay.
But I believe, don't quote me on that one. I believe it's a Cook Shack.
Cook Shack. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Good units. Yep. Solid workhorse units. Definitely. Can you go into a little bit about the menu for the barbecue?
Yeah, the menu is actually available on our website.
Oh, great.
TransitSmokehouseBBQ.com.
Yep.
So, the stuff that people are interested in, the smoked meat, it's going to be brisket, ribs, sausage, pork butt, and there's a few other things. So,
sure.
If anybody's interested in having a look, please visit our website, TransitSmokehouseBBQ.com, and have a look. I think most people that look at it get hungry right there.
Yeah.
There aren't too many smokehouses in the city either. Probably less than 5.
Yeah, there's a few up there, but not a ton for sure. So, yeah, it's there's definitely a growing barbecue scene up in Edmonton, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So. I know a ton of folks, especially since the pandemic started, that bought smokers of their own. And, and a number of them are very excited at the possibility of not having to invest 12 hours smoking a brisket and being able to get it from us. And I can tell you right now that my partner Ray is an amazing chef. His food is great.
Does he have any sort of barbecue background at all with his cooking experience?
In the past he worked as a professional chef.
Yes.
I mentioned he's owned a number of restaurants also. He's worked all over Eastern Canada and Northeastern United States.
Okay. Yeah, excellent. Quick question, I guess, and I usually ask this at the beginning, but we kind of got right into everything else. What does barbecue mean to you, David?
Well, to me, I mentioned this to you before. I'm not the food guy, but I love history. I love beer. I love community, and I think food is something that can bring people together. My father is actually a retired government worker, and he loves food too. He just couldn't cook it.
Right.
And when he finished, when he retired, he ended up actually going back to school, and he studied culinary arts.
Oh wow!
And I think that was part of his strategy to I guess catalyze the family still having that collaborative relationship, and he wanted to make food a big centerpiece for that. And and I agree. I think a big part of all those aspects can be food, and I think if you properly I guess analyze the demographics that you're going for, and in Northeast Edmonton, like I mentioned before, with all this meat packing and blue collar history, I think barbecue can be a big part of that.
That's awesome.
That's my hope.
Yep, absolutely. And you got some merch available as well?
Yeah, that's actually available on our website as well. So far, it's just a few items, hats, mugs, and shirts, but we definitely hope, depending on demand, we hope to add to that.
Excellent. You mentioned kind of where folks can find information. You kind of mentioned what social media outlets you're on, active on Instagram. That's where I found you for sure. So
yeah, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the handles are Transit Edmonton. We also have a YouTube channel. Just search Transit Hotel. I think that one will get really interesting, particularly as we begin our second and third phase, and really start posting cool videos of our renovations that we have done. There are a number that are really cool on there before, just going over some of the antiquities that we've discovered in the basement, and certain things that people just don't see anymore. Like a dugout basement is something that you probably only find in homes that are about 100 years old, and they have one there. And we found a number of old wagon wheels, horse collars, and just a lot of really cool things that we're actually utilizing, and I guess architectural drawings too that we're going to utilize in the way that we decorate the restaurant.
Oh, excellent.
We're hoping to treat it a little bit as a museum. We have fun photos that we've been able to find from a ton of different sources, and we put little blurbs and fun facts on them. And my hope is maybe when restrictions ease a little bit, people will actually walk around the restaurant and read these. And maybe eventually we'll start treating them out with other ones, and we'll give people a reason to come back and see what new things that we've posted since then. So that's the way we want to treat it. And I really think that we're making a lot of great progress towards that, and I think we'll get there. That's
awesome. Building that old with that kind of history, I'm sure there's some stories in those walls that hopefully you're able to share with people as your project progresses, right? So
yeah, I've definitely become a little bit of a transit hotel expert. I think I've only scratched the surface, and a lot of it has just come from people that have seen us on the news or just caught our social media and a fun little post that got shared on their page, and and I guess they had something to share with us, and they gave us some photos, and they gave us some little fun facts
that's neat
that we passed along, and we've shown people a part of this building that I think a lot of people never even set foot in it that grew up in this area. A lot of people I knew, and I can't say that I spent too much time there either. I think there's a pretty significant interest now that people were introduced to something that they may have driven by every day and not really paid much attention to, and now they've been given a reason to.
Yeah, well, it's looking at the pictures, it's an amazing looking building. I think it, and just in my experience and my opinion, it's perfectly suited to a barbecue restaurant. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to see what you guys are doing, and I'm really excited to get up there once we're allowed to travel, and see what you guys are doing. I'm really excited to see another barbecue restaurant on the horizon for Edmonton. So that's awesome.
Wonderful.
My last question I ask everybody, it's dinner time. Maybe you got the grill going. What's your go-to meal, David? There it is. Yep.
Well, for me it's steak.
Yep.
That's really all I can make. My wife is definitely the cook of our family.
Yep.
But, yeah. If I'm gonna barbecue something, it's a good steak or cedar flank salmon, something like that.
Nice. Right on, David.
Bob's.
Yeah. This is awesome. Thank you so much. Really excited to follow the progress, and we'll keep the word out when as you guys get closer. So looking forward to it. And thanks for taking some time out of your Sunday here.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I hope to see you there when they can.
Oh, guaranteed. Thanks, man.
Wonderful.
A big thank you to David for filling me in on the plans for the Transit Smokehouse and Barbecue. Keep your eyes on their social media for updates coming soon about an opening date for the restaurant. It's the third week of the month, and that means it's time for our competition update. Brought to you this month by Roomy by Atco. With warmer weather comes yard work, and lots of it. Prune your trees and shrubs, clean your eaves troughs, replace those drafty windows you noticed over the winter. Or you can call Roomy to take care of all your outdoor and indoor spring home maintenance while you fire up the barbecue and relax. Visit roomy.ca, that's RUMI.ca, or call 1-844-777-7864 and let Roomy's trusted local experts take care of your yard, so all you have to do is enjoy it. Up here in Canada, the only events on the Canadian Bbq Society calendar are the 2 Alberta events coming up in May and July, and then 2 events in Quebec coming in August. Visit www.cbbqs.ca for more information and stay up to date on any new events that might get added to the calendar. Heading south of the border, a look at the KCBS website shows a number of events on the calendar in the coming weeks. The Rooters and Tutors TN team is sitting at the top of the Master Series rankings with 1,890 overall points. Great to see my bud Bill Purvis from Chicken Fried Barbecue sticking around the top 10. Speaking of Bill, you might recall that he and Fred Robles joined me a few weeks back to talk about the new Champions Barbecue Alliance. The CBA is a newly formed sanctioning body in Texas, and their event calendar is filling up quickly. I'll be keeping an eye on their website, and will update once they start listing rankings on the site. Staying in Texas and taking a look at the IBCA rankings, Phil Breeden and his LC BBQ team are leading the way. The IBCA calendar is a busy one with multiple events every week, so if you're in Texas and looking to compete, be sure to check it out. And that, my friends, brings our monthly competition update to a close. The first competition of the year here in Canada is fast approaching, with Porkapalooza going at the end of May up near Edmonton. Looking forward to that. Thank you so much to David Egan for coming on the podcast this week and sharing the Transit Hotel story. It will be exciting to follow their progress, and I can't wait to get up to Edmonton and taste their barbecue once they open up. Before we wrap the show for this week, I want to give a quick mention to the great folks at MealShare. I've had it in my head for quite some time that I would like to incorporate some sort of charitable element into what I'm doing with the podcast, my website, and social media. I had the crazy idea of starting up my own organization or something, but have since come to the stark realization that I simply don't have the time or know-how to do such a thing. So then I started to think about what existing charities I could try and work with and support. I wanted it to be something food-related, dealing with hunger, and it quickly occurred to me that MealShare was the obvious choice. Their approach to fighting hunger starts with making sure kids aren't going hungry, which will lead to less issues as they transform into adults. Plus, they focus on both local and global solutions. You'll be seeing and hearing more about MealShare on my feeds and here on the podcast as we explore ways to work together. But for now, I encourage you to check out Poutine with Purpose, that runs from April 23rd through May 1st, 2021, in Vancouver, Victoria, Calgary, and Hamilton. Visit poutinewithpurpose.com/restaurants for more info and to see what restaurants are participating in this great program. The COVID pandemic isn't over yet, and here in Alberta we are back to heavier restrictions. This means that restaurants are not allowed to offer dining service indoors. Those with patios are able to serve outdoors, and takeout and delivery is still available. This is yet another hit for an industry that has suffered greatly over the past 13 months. Please keep your eyes open to see what your local barbecue joints are doing, And wherever you are, in Alberta or elsewhere, get out there and support them in whatever way you're comfortable and able. Whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, stay safe, wear your masks, and get your vaccinations as soon as it's your turn. I just got my first dose today. The Eat More Barbecue Podcast is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. This month's APN shoutout goes to My Viewfinder. Join host David Ewan as he interviews photographers on how they approach their craft. Please visit www.albertapodcastnetwork.com for links to My Viewfinder and all the other great shows on the network. That's a wrap, everybody. See y'all next week. Hey friends, thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe to the show, and I'd love it if you'd leave a rating and review. You can find me online at eatmorebarbecue.ca and also at albertabbqtrail.ca. Check out the listing of joints on the Barbecue Trail site and show them your support. If you're not in Alberta, get out and show your local barbecue joint some love. Give me a follow on Twitter at eatmorebarbecue and on Facebook and Instagram at eat_more_barbecue. If you have any questions or guest suggestions, my email is eatmorebarbecue@gmail.com. Thanks to Alan Horban for the great music on this and every episode of the Eat More Barbecue podcast. This podcast is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported, and is a production of Eat More Barbecue Digital Media. Till next time, folks, keep on smoking.